Okay, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure we have good audio here before we start. Usually do in this room. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Transcription. There we go. All right. So we have audio. We are ready to go here. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today and visiting our portal. What we are trying to talk about today is enterprise software. And when we mean enterprise software, we mean that we are trying to emulate what Microsoft is doing on the desktop level for the past, 25 years or so, with web solutions that are also delivered either to the internet or to the desktop in the same common format. So we are trying to control the look and feel of applications, not just on the desktop, but across the world. So that means that when you're building applications, you have to be able to build them in a way that allows you to use one set of code rather than write three separate environments, one for the enterprise, one for B2B, and one for your public customers. So software development in the new world is much more complicated than it was when I was in college. Back in the day, you really only had enterprise software. And so we were trying to figure out how to deliver to specific desktops. And more than that, most enterprises, because they were only delivering desktop apps, were focused on a single type of desktop. So they were either Windows customers, or they were IBM terminal customers, or they were Linux, Unix environments. So customers didn't really mix technology on the desktop because it dramatically increased their costs on the development side. So in the past, in the early to mid 1990s, customers were picking Windows or they were picking Unix, and they were more or less sticking with it. And it didn't really hit until Y2K that most companies not only had public internet sites, but were trying to sell on them. So this is a 25-year phenomenon now that is never going away. But when I was in college and when I first started in the business, we were really just trying to deliver enterprise apps. And those enterprise apps predominantly were either Microsoft Visual Basic or Microsoft Visual C++ driven. In the Unix world, everyone was literally writing character interfaces in C and C++. And then over time, they developed some GUI models that were emulating Windows desktops on the Unix platform. Things like Mate Desktop, XFC4. There are a number of Cinnamon. There are a number of different desktops that are out there in the Unix world now that sort of emulate Windows, but their development environments haven't really caught up. So the challenge with using Linux desktops is, although there are now desktop managers out there that compete with Windows, it's still very difficult to build a Linux application for a desktop environment, mainly because they really don't have the publishing capabilities that are out there today. So I think that'll probably change over the next 25 years now that Linux is so widespread. But in the meantime, customers are really revolving around the Microsoft development model or the Apple development model, because Apple when you build an app, does put it on desktops, and they do manage it. So what we're seeing out in the enterprise is really two different types of desktops. And then most customers want to have not only a public website, but a B2B website that's higher security. And then they want really three different types of mobile applications. They'd like to have an Android platform. They'd like to have an Apple iOS platform. And most people think that Microsoft will be back one of these days. And so, although you can say Android and the iPhone are 95% of the market, most people will tell you that if they're going to do mobile development, they also want to be able to handle Microsoft technology over time. So in the past, we used to deliver a single app to a single desktop, and that was all we had to worry about. And then we added in 2000, as I said, public resources, but we were really only talking about two different code bases. Today, we're talking about 6 or 7 different variants. And in some environments, they might have all 3 different types of desktops out there. And so they're literally building applications that have to run on really any desktop framework. So Microsoft doesn't do that very well. And the current platforms in Node.js, they do applications very well, but they're limited in how they can be packaged, as they usually come as compiled applications. So building in Node.js takes between 25 and 50% longer than a hybrid environment with Microsoft and HTML technology. So what we're doing with Greenville Enterprise Software is we are offering Fusion Shell technology. And what that does, it allows you to build applications that run on any platform. So any mobile device, any desktop, either in the public internet space or in the B2B marketplace, with full control, with high security, and with open platform capabilities. So Fusion Shell in itself, with no ties to any other system, is probably the most important development in my career. And I used to work for what is now Microsoft Consulting many moons ago, and they really haven't changed all that much what they're doing. They're evolving their development environment. They bought a company called Xamarin, and they are moving to .NET. But that is really just a change of compiler. It really doesn't produce an output which is integrated like their old Visual Basic models do. So what we're doing is completely different, and in my opinion, breathtaking difference in that enterprise environments are very, very much more complicated than just in the 90s, which is only 30 years ago. And what our tool does is it literally allows you to future-proof what you're doing as far as development goes. Now, Fusion Shell builds a desktop environment, just like Visual Basic does. It builds a top menu, a bottom menu, and you have your choices of different side menus, and you can even stack menus so that you can have much more complicated environments than what is in the standard Windows IDE. So what we're doing as far as desktop frameworks and layout is really anything that HTML can do, we can do as well. So we are HTML5 compliant, so anything that you can build in HTML, you can build in Fusion Shell. What's different is Fusion Shell is designed to run out of the box as a desktop shell. So it is pre-built in what it does, and it has hard points. So here at the top of the screen, we have a top menu system, but those are really hard points built to embedded applications that are inside the shell itself. So my teaser is, with Fusion Shell, you can build any application to any desktop. But more than that, Fusion Shell already works when you install it. So you're not spending time building menus and laying screens out like you do in the Microsoft world. So it would be like getting out Visual Studio and using their test AdventureWorks program. It's pre-built and it has a pre-built application structure to it. Ours, however, is a generic structure that meets most companies' needs. So you have a corporate portal, you have a sales portal, and all of that is built right away. So that's really what Fusion Shell started out as just a web development environment that competes with Visual Studio. So we believe Fusion Shell, when we get our own compiler, will in fact compete in the marketplace with Microsoft development technology. But above and beyond that, Fusion Shell was designed to integrate with any back office tool set. So I'm going to talk you through the professional tools, but Fusion Shell Open, which is our first product here in the enterprise marketplace, can be downloaded from GitHub or from our website. And what it does is it builds a shell for your company and it installs an open source back office, which includes HR and accounting system and things like if you want to do polls, our Fusion Shell products have a plugin which we call Fusion Shell Plus. So Fusion Shell Open is our development environment. You can buy the developer version of it that just has this framing around it. Has no other technology. Some people just want, hey, I don't want to spend 2 weeks building a menu system. I just want the developer load and I want the hard points, but I don't want you to install WordPress for me. So Fusion Shell Developer is just the shell itself. It's just this framing that you're looking at here right now. In addition to that, we have an extranet and an intranet portal pre-built. So when you install the intranet version of Fusion Shell, it has things like associate portals. It allows you to really do everything that you would do on an intranet right out of the box. So we have an extranet, we have an intranet, and we have a combination that does both intranet and extranet. Like if you don't want to spend time writing 2 portals, your company is small and starting up, you probably want the combination, and that gives you the ability to have an intranet and an extranet on the same site. Now, in addition to that, we have the capability to develop Fusion Mobile. So our standard shell out of the box does in fact compress, and it figures out what the resolution of your current screen is in your browser. But if I shrink the browser, it will also shrink the shell. So Fusion Shell is adaptive, just like your browser is adaptive, but it only goes to a certain point. When you deal with really small spaces or different size rectangles, of different dimensions, like your cell phones, having a mobile technology becomes important for the lower end of the marketplace. So at the upper end, people are buying iPhone 10s, 12s, 15s, whatever the number is today. And they have really high density video capabilities on them. And usually the pixels are over 1200 pixels in both directions. And for that, you really don't have to do anything other than Fusion Shell. So if I have a big iPhone, a new platform, looking at Fusion Shell on your iPhone will look perfect just the way it is, even if you rotate it. But if you go to a smaller environment or you have an older phone like I do, having a Shell mobile environment is very important. So what we do in the portal is when you land on our portal and you essentially figure out what size screen you are on, then Fusion Shell will redirect you either to a mobile platform if you have our technology or to a regular internet or intranet portal. So we've built essentially a bootstrap location processor that determines what the best environment is for the screen you're running on. And that's driven by Chrome. It's driven by Microsoft Edge. So we're querying them for the size of portal we're working on and then making selections from there. In addition to mobile, we also have an intranet product that is pre-built. So if you go with our Fusion Plus platform, it not only has all of our open source platforms built in, but it also has the back office working. And then we are in process of loading up a telecom net center. So essentially, if you use Fusion Shell, you'll be able to manage your telecom environment. And that includes things like ITSM, doing change management, and really anything in the ITIL fabric. So Fusion Shell Open by itself is an open source platform. It uses tools like WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal portal technology inside of the shell, and they can be driven as sub-applications to the shell itself. So Fusion Shell is a manager of managers. It drives open source and private development inside of a unified environment. And as I said, it will in fact compete with Microsoft in the future. Now, that's an open source environment. Fusion Shell Professional is built on Microsoft SQL Server, and it is a professional tool set that allows you to deliver HA applications, or high availability applications across regions and across the world. So unlike Fusion Shell, which is designed to be a single point solution, Fusion Professional is designed to be an HA tool set out of the box. And not only that, it ties in with your accounting systems, whatever you're using today. So not only do we tie to accounting systems, but we also go into grid publishing and application across the world. So we start to get into regional publishing and grid publishing, which is multi-node HA environments. So if you go into a large bank, most of them have grid infrastructure that spans more than 2 regions. Usually they go to 4 or 6, depending on the continent. And so when you publish an application, you want that to run across multiple data centers at the same time. So Fusion Pro allows you to do all the same development tasks that you do with the open technology. It's designed to run on an enterprise database system. So you can use Oracle, you can use Microsoft. And since SAP technology really runs on Oracle today, essentially if you have support for Microsoft in Oracle databases, then essentially you can really deliver anything else in the marketplace. Now, in addition to this base technology, we are building in specific modules that are extending our tool set to things like service management and the usual things like IT inventory, things like your project management, things like customer feedback are now built into Fusion Professional, and those are available in our tool set now. We are also building Fusion Pro instances that are prepared with a enterprise voice environment. So depending on the four largest platforms, we have taken the time to integrate, and that's Cisco Call Manager, 3CX, Sangoma, and also Avaya. So those platforms are out there today. So we are building applications. We are then making them HA. And then the third part of our business is unifying our back office across our web services. So once you load up an app, depending on where you deploy it, the application has capabilities based on what the web server you're running on's capabilities are. So what we have done is we've developed strange brew services, and what these really do is they normalize the web server environment. So whether you're running on Microsoft IIS, Apache, or Linux, we can normalize your development environment across those platforms as standalone. We also have built Strange Brew for different panel environments, some of which we have developed with our partner CTS, and some of those are just out of the box plugins for different Linux versions. So when you install a Strange Brew server, however, it creates all the capabilities that you need to run our apps here to the left. So what we are doing with Strange Brew is we are making it available to any database, and we are normalizing web servers. So once you have done that, you now can deliver applications and grid components across the world, really on any platform. So Strange Brew is an enabling technology that ties into web services, and it makes Fusion Pro and Fusion Open a little more available to the world. So it supports any database technology, and it provides things like Adobe Cold Fusion support. So without that, it's very hard to do certain types of pages inside Fusion Pro. So over here, as a final component of our enterprise tool set, we are offering Greenville Enterprise Manager. And this is a portal manager of managers that runs on Linux, Windows, or Mac OS. And it essentially is a appliance to manage all of these tools. So when you become an enterprise and you end up having hundreds, if not thousands of applications, managing those, not just in the enterprise, but across the world, becomes a very big challenge in itself. And so what we have done is we built a hybrid cloud manager, and Jim, what we're calling Jim, manages hybrid cloud across any platform, whether it be premise-based data centers or a mix of Amazon, Microsoft, and Google data centers across the world. We can manage all of those in a single pane of glass on a single set of software, running a single inventory system. So the challenge in working with different cloud providers is if you're an Amazon shop mostly, but you have a few Google data centers, let's say in South America, where they have less coverage, then managing those environments becomes more challenging because you can't use Amazon's inventory system, or you can't use Google's inventory system as a single source of record. So what Jim does, it allows you to build a single source of record, and that becomes important when you go to run Knox and manage customers across the world. So Jim gives you the capability to build world-class services on the enterprise level, and probably within 2 years, we'll offer a contact integration with that, probably to the Genesis suite, which is our target environment. So that is really what we're doing with enterprise software. We have a separate solution for our managed services and our ISP that we will cover at a different day. But thank you very much. My name is John Stritzinger. I'm the CEO of Greenville Associates, and these are tools that have been in the marketplace now for over a decade. So we are a fairly sophisticated company at this point in time. Thank you.